This podcast is made possible by you, the supporters of WPLN and WNXP, Nashville Public Radio.
This is the Nash Villager Podcast. It's May 7th, 2025. On this day in 1824, the world first heard one of the ultimate musical expressions of triumph, Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, which culminates in the now iconic choral movement known as the Ode to Joy. The lyrics come from a poem by Friedrich Schiller, which, in its first draft, was actually the Ode to Freedom. And honestly, that still comes through quite clearly in the way that people have used Beethoven's musical setting of the poem through the years. Time and time again, Beethoven's Ninth has been the music of choice to perform when it's time to celebrate the end of deadly conflict or to inspire hope that better days will come. At the end of World War I, a group of German POWs in Japan played it to celebrate the peace accords that ended that conflict. That performance propelled the piece to become beloved as Daiku, or Big Nine, one of the more popular examples of Western music in that Asian nation in the early 20th century. And years later, after the devastating tsunami in 2011, a Japanese concert promoting unity, recovery, and rebuilding featured the Ode to Joy with a massive choir of 10,000. When the Berlin Wall fell, conductor Leonard Bernstein led a celebratory performance of Beethoven's Ninth by an ensemble of musicians from East and West Germany combined. And when the dictator Augusto Pinochet imprisoned and tortured thousands of political enemies in the 70s, masses of women risked their lives to stand outside those prisons and sing a folk version of the melody so that the people inside could hear them, know they weren't forgotten, and hopefully maintain their spirits. I'm Nina Cardona, and this is your daily digest of what's happening around Middle Tennessee with some historical context from Nashville Public Radio, WPLN News. Well, before the victory, before the joy, comes the fight. These days up in New York City, a very different kind of artistic endeavor is using theater to dig into the conflicts of our time and the many questions they raise. What's happening? What does it mean? On a fundamental human level, how can we connect through or despite these challenges? What is the path forward? And tonight, I am very pleased to say that a piece of WPLN reporting is taking center stage in those efforts. The Theater of War does a couple of things. They produce dramatic readings of landmark plays that grapple with these kinds of themes on a more timeless basis. The ancient Greek tragedies by Sophocles are among their mainstays, using Oedipus Rex and Antigone to unlock group discussions on the conflict and brutality that's happening now. Another thread of work that the group does is performing dramatic readings of investigative journalism. And for the first time, their reading tonight will present the work of a local journalist rather than a piece of reporting done solely for a national outlet. And it's none other than a story by WPLN's criminal justice reporter Paige Flager. You may have heard the story when we first aired it. It was featured on the August 12th episode of this podcast. It's about the high rate of domestic violence deaths in Tennessee, about how difficult it can be to separate abusers from their guns, especially in rural parts of the state. And it's about the way that Scott County, Tennessee, transformed how it handles those matters and made a very real difference in the lives of victims there. Paige's story was powerful. You heard the voices of the people who really lived these experiences, which is an incredibly important thing. But I think it's also going to be interesting to see how those words, hers as a reporter, those of the people she talked to, how they all hit differently in the hands of skilled actors. If that helps more thoughts bubble to the surface, how a dramatic reading can spur conversation about the substance of the story. The cast is really solid. Deborah Winger starred in Terms of Endearment, An Officer and a Gentleman, An Urban Cowboy. Daphne Rubin Vega was in the original Broadway cast of Rent and the most recent season of Only Murders in the Building. Josh Hamilton has an impressive theater resume, but has also been on screen in The Walking Dead, 13 Reasons Why, and the movie 8th Grade. And you've probably seen Bill Irwin in a million shows, from Star Trek series to Sesame Street. He's Mr. Noodle. But stage acting is his main thing, and he won the Tony for a revival of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. Those are the actors who will be reading Paige's reporting tonight. But that's just the first part of the evening. After the reading comes the discussion. The audience, both in person and online, will then be invited to take part in a guided conversation about domestic violence, about gun violence, and about how our communities can respond and find innovative ways to keep people safer. The performance and conversation are all available via Zoom at 6 o'clock this evening our time, and you can find out more at our website, WPLN.org. In just a few minutes, it's this week's edition of What Wear Wednesday. That's coming up after the newscast.
On This Is Nashville, we're taking a journey into the identity of this place we call home. The old and the new, the glitzy and the gritty, the monumental and the human. What makes Nashville tick? What makes it unique? And where are we headed as a city? We're going deeper on the day's news, bringing you dynamic conversations and taking you with us out into the community. Join us weekdays at noon. This is Nashville.
Here's the latest from WPLN News. A Nashville police whistleblower has been indicted for stealing documents related to the Covenant School shooting, according to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. TBI agents arrested retired Lieutenant Garrett Davidson yesterday after a nearly year-long investigation. Last June, the Metro Nashville Police Department alleged that Davidson could have leaked pages of the assailant's journal to Tennessee Star. Weeks prior, Davidson had released a 61-page complaint alleging that MNPD worked with state lawmakers to curb the powers of community-led oversight of police. Davidson worked in the department's equivalent of internal affairs. He also made accusations that police leadership mishandled the investigation into the first leak of the assailant's journal to conservative YouTuber Steven Crowder. MNPD ended that initial investigation in 2023 without identifying a suspect. The department did not respond to WPLN's questions regarding the arrest or what action MNPD has taken to address the issues outlined in Davidson's complaint. The former lieutenant was booked into the Davidson County Jail on $150,000 bond. Tennessee's Attorney General is challenging a Vermont state law aimed at holding fossil fuel companies financially responsible for climate pollution. The legislation is called Vermont's Climate Superfund Law. It was enacted last year and is modeled after the Environmental Protection Agency's Superfund program, which also holds polluters accountable. WVPB's Curtis Tate reports that Tennessee and 23 other states are involved in the lawsuit, which is led by West Virginia.
The states, along with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and the American Petroleum Institute, say the law violates the U.S. Constitution's Commerce and Equal Protection Clauses. They say Vermont is preempted by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and the Clean Air Act from regulating greenhouse gas emissions.
The Vermont law imposes fines on fossil fuel producers for greenhouse gas emissions that they caused over a 30-year period starting in 1994. The law is now facing other challenges. Last week, the U.S. Department of Justice also sued Vermont, as well as states with similar climate action, including New York, Hawaii, and Michigan. Vanderbilt University Medical Center is following through on its plans to lay off non-clinical staff. WPLN's health reporter Catherine Sweeney tells us this is a response to grant freezes and uncertainty in Washington, D.C.
The cutbacks have started. The statement from Vanderbilt University Medical Center reads in part, "Hiring for most research and administrative positions has been paused, and some positions have been eliminated. The freeze will not apply to positions in patient care. This isn't coming as a surprise. Administrators warned employees in late March that they were dropping $250 million from the budget because of federal cuts, and that would mean reductions in support staff, like IT and human resources, as well as research staff. That's because the Trump administration is systematically getting rid of millions in medical research funding, be that canceling one-off grants for being too focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion, or attempts to reduce funding across the board for agencies like the National Institutes of Health. Congress is working to slash the budget for Medicaid programs like TennCare, which would also have dire effects on hospitals like VUMC. Catherine Sweeney, WPLN News.
Tennessee's Department of Correction has backed out of 2 bid processes for a health vendor for incarcerated people. The Tennessean reports that this last time, it may end in court. The company, Wexford Health Services, is suing TDOC and the state procurement office for circumventing contract bidding laws. The lawsuit was filed last week. Wexford was supposed to become the next healthcare provider, but the state canceled the contract after the current provider, Centurion, protested. The corrections department and the healthcare company have a complicated history, with accusations of bid rigging and improper information sharing between executives. TDOC says it won't comment on pending litigation. In its filing, Wexford says the procurement process is costly and time-consuming. Also, TDOC's actions send a message that it is a waste of time and effort. The lawsuit reads, quote, "So long as the incumbent lodges some complaint, which it always will do, TDOC will not stand behind the contract award." When you think of electric vehicle drivers, residents of rural Tennessee might not be the first image to come to mind. But a project by researchers at Tennessee Tech hopes to change that. WPLN's Caroline Eggers reports.
To help rural residents consider EVs, the project is focused on two main initiatives. First, providing people with exposure. One program allows Tennesseans to sign up to borrow an EV for free with insurance covered.
A lot of our rural community has not been exposed.
Ping-An Chen is a professor of mechanical engineering at Tennessee Tech, and he's leading the project. He says rural folks need more hands-on experience and accurate information, like how switching to an EV can save rural residents more money than their urban counterparts, and how most EV charging happens at home. But to ease the anxiety that some rural EV drivers face, Chen says the project has a new addition, an emergency EV charging service.
A AAA-like service.
If locals or people driving through rural areas run out of charge, the university deploys a mobile charging unit. The program is small, just a 40-mile radius around the university now, but eventually, Chen hopes to expand the program across Appalachia to more of Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, and Ohio. Caroline Eggers, WPLN News.
Packaged tomatoes sold in Tennessee are being recalled for possible salmonella contamination. These are tomatoes packed in plastic clamshells and labeled vine ripe by a company called Ray and Mascari. Salmonella is one of the most common types of food poisoning. For some people, it can be fatal. For others, it can cause stomach pains and fever for a few days. You'll find more news anytime at WPLN.org. Nashville is full to bursting with creative people ready to entertain you. But how do they take care of each other? Where do they go to refuel their creative tanks?
I'm Marquise Munson, here with another edition of Nashville Public Radio's What Were Wednesday, keeping you up to date with the happenings in Nashville this week. Live music opportunities begin tonight with WNXP presents Bad Bad Not Good, featuring Baby Rose at Brooklyn Bowl. Pearl Jam is at Bridgestone Arena on Thursday. On Friday night, WNXP presents Florist at the Blue Room. Meanwhile, Wilco and Waxahachie are at the Pinnacle. Back at the Blue Room on Saturday with Hamilton Lighthouser, and wrap up your week with Paul Simon's 3 nights at the Ryman beginning Sunday. For more events, head over to WNXP.org/events. This week for What Were Wednesdays, we discuss Music City Movement Springfest happening this Saturday at Honeytree Meadery.
My name is Jenna Rose, and I am co-founder of Music City Movement. Music City Movement came to be because I had just moved to Nashville and noticed that there obviously is a very thriving music scene here for all genres, all kinds of artists. But I noticed a need for a space for musicians to kind of come together and create community and really help each other thrive and kind of uplift one another. That's what it was born out of. Our mission is to foster a creative, collaborative environment for musicians and creatives. We want to see interesting things being made that wouldn't have otherwise happened without people coming together. And so we've gotten to see a lot of that kind of stuff happen, which has been really fulfilling. A lot of different projects come to life and albums happen and things like that with people who have met through our events, which is just really, that's what it's all about. It's exactly what we want to do. We've done all kinds of events. We've had education sessions, mixers and networking events. We've done festivals in the past. We've done competitions, jam nights, all kinds of things. Right now, our 2 weekly events are Monday nights at Passage Kava Lounge, which is Melodic Mondays, and it's a showcase of 4 artists, usually 4, and a little bit of a kind of a social gathering as well to help foster that community environment. Then on Tuesday nights, we have our open mic and writers' night here at Honey Tree Meadery. And we have a featured artist perform, sometimes 2 featured artists, and then we have our open mic that is an inclusive, open to everyone. So those are our 2 weekly events that are happening at the moment. We are still looking to kind of continue building slowly. We want to focus on quality over quantity, so we're pretty selective in what we are bringing on board, but we also want to be expanding to other events as well, which is how the festival came up. Yeah, so Springfest is going to start at 3 p.m. on May 10th, Saturday, May 10th. And it is going to be a free event with the purchase of 2 beverages from the bar. And so open to everybody. We're going to have 8 artists performing and a bunch of local vendors. We're going to have like hair tinsel and vintage clothing and all kinds of fun stuff. Lots of craft and other things like that. And of course, Bad Luck Burger Club is going to be there feeding everyone. And it's going to go till about 9 or so p.m., pretty much all afternoon, kind of into the evening event. It's here at Honey Tree Meadery, which is such a perfect environment for it. They won one of the top in the Nashville scene for best patios. So we're going to have our event out on the patio in the back with the stage, but there's going to be stuff out front as well and inside the bar itself too. Honey Tree Meadery is the perfect environment for this event and our open mic as well because of the community feeling of it here. As soon as you walk in, you feel like you're at your friend's house. The kind of friend where you have access to their fridge at any time, you know? It's just you walk in and you're at home and everybody behind the bar is your buddy and all your friends are in the corner playing games or watching whatever movie night is on or listening to the music out back or inside, depending on the weather. So it really is that aligned kind of energy with the Music City Movement mission.
For more information about Music City Movement and other events happening this week, visit WNXP.org. My name is Marquise Munson, and thank you for listening to another edition of What Were Wednesdays.
In the middle of a town, found myself in a body.
Thanks for listening to the Nash Villager podcast. We take this look at Nashville news every weekday. If you like it, go ahead and subscribe on your favorite podcasting app and tell a friend or give us a mention on your socials. It really helps get the word out. And of course, everything at WPLN News is listener supported. And you can become a member at WPLN.org. That's it for today. Thanks so much for listening. Let's make this day a good one, and we'll catch back up tomorrow.